So, there's a new RSV4 and a new Tuono V4. And being that I am an Aprilia fanboy and a Tuono V4 owner, I thought it'd be fun to talk about what is new and exciting and interesting about those bikes. So, let's get started. Hi, I'm Chad and welcome to Virtual Reality. I like to start my vlogs in virtual reality because it is a place where we can go fast. So without further ado, let us go fast. Back to reality. So as I mentioned just a moment ago, 2021 is going to bring us a new RSV4 and a new Tuono V4. And I'm excited about it for a couple reasons. The first reason is because I absolutely love Aprilia. I love the brand, I love what they stand for, and I think they make truly incredible machines that are just joyful and exciting to ride. And it makes me happy that they're in a position where they can afford to redesign a model, especially in times where, you know, you're seeing models get cut like middleweight super sport bikes. You know, they go and, well, it's not exactly the same thing. That new RS660 and the Tuono 660, those are pretty cool little bikes, and it's awesome to see them pushing into new segments and just kind of growing as a company, but still supporting the bikes that they've been selling and inspiring us with for the last decade or so. So a brief little history lesson here. The RSV4 was released in 2009, I believe, and it redefined the superbike category along with the BMW S1000 RR. Those were the two lust-worthy superbikes of that era, or most lust-worthy and technologically advanced, in my opinion, on the lust-worthy side of things. But they were the most technologically advanced at the time. And then the RSV4 went on to win 3 World Superbike Championships after its introduction, with Max Biaggi in the saddle, further cementing its status as a best-in-class superbike. Now, the last year that he won the title, 2012, also saw the introduction of the Tuono V4, which was designed to be a slightly more comfortable but not very compromising naked version of the RSV4. Still retained a 1000cc V4 engine with a 65-degree angle, the suite of APRC electronics that made the RSV4 more accessible to many people, but just gave you that extra little bit of comfiness with the more upright riding position. So throughout the years, both the RSV4 and the Tuono V4 have been improved upon every year, every other year, which is, again, really awesome to see Aprilia do. It just speaks to the fact that they are passionate about making amazing motorcycles and doing their best to keep them current with the times. And every year or two, we've seen significant, meaningful improvements to these bikes, whether it be something on the more minor side, like small tweaks to the electronics, or something major like electronic semi-active Olin suspension and a higher displacement engine. So Aprilia's stuck behind their bikes and done everything that they can to make them better, but naturally, at some point it comes time to do a little bit more of an update. And the 2021 model year is going to bring some of those big updates. First and most obvious, both the Tuono V4 and the RSV4 look very similar to the RS660 and Tuono 660. I understand why they're trying to do it. If you look at what Yamaha's done over the past few years, for example, and even Ducati as well, they've really unified their brand image where all the bikes look pretty similar. You know, the naked bikes have their look like the Monster, and the Monster looks like the Monster, with some subtle and not so subtle differences between the smaller bikes and then the bigger 1200 bikes. But same with the Panigale. You've got the V2, you've got the V4, and they look similar, but of course do have some differences between the two of them. And that's what Aprilia seems to be doing with their line of motorcycles right now. And again, I get it. They want that brand recognition. They want someone to be able to look at any one of their bikes and just be like, oh, that's an Aprilia. I am a sucker for the way that the 2016 and up Tuono V4 looks, and just the RSV4 any model year. It's one of the most beautiful motorcycles in my opinion, and I honestly just don't feel like there's anything you could really do to improve on its styling, but it is what it is. There's always got to be change at some point, right? I mean, I wasn't a huge fan of the R1 when it first came out, with its whole, the 2015 to present R1, with its very function over form look, but it grew on me, and now I think it's absolutely beautiful. So who's to say that I won't feel the same way about the RSV4 and Tuono V4? I already do really like the RS660 and Tuono 660 looks. It's just going to be interesting to see a V4 bike with those. Those are my thoughts on the styling of the bikes. So there's some other technical changes we should talk about. The first being the new swing arm that will be seen on both the Tuono V4 and the RSV4. It is a new, lighter, stronger design actually, which was influenced by the RSGP MotoGP bike that Aprilia races in the MotoGP World Championship. So again, more World Championship winning technology and design, further cementing their statuses as pure breed superbike and hypernaked. In addition to that, the RSV4 is getting a new engine. Capacity is going up from 1,077 cc's to 1,099, and the engine is going to be producing a whopping 217 claimed horsepower, which is absolutely bonkers. I think that will actually make that bike the highest powered superbike across the board, even more so than the Panigale V4S. I think maybe even more than the Panigale V4R. Going to be an absolute zonker of an engine. I can't even imagine what that bike is going to be like to ride and how brutally fast it will be. The Tuono V4, on the other hand, is retaining the same power plant that is in my Tuono V4, the 1077 cc 65 degree V4, which is, I've said it before in other videos, it's an amazing engine. Has a fantastic mix of top end and mid-range power. Just really everywhere you need it, and it just pulls like a freight train. It's awesome. It's going to be Euro 5 compliant, which means there's probably going to be a more restrictive exhaust on it if I had to guess, but I know that this engine has a lot of potential, more so than even it comes from the factory with. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's just as fast as this Tuono, if not maybe even a little bit faster. So another thing that's changing on both bikes that is pretty significant is the electronics. This is something I've come to appreciate on my bike. The electronics on the Tuono, as I mentioned before, they've been improved every year or 2 years or so, little by little, but they haven't had a full overhaul. And the Tuono V4, the RSV4, and I'm just gonna say it flat out first, I can't tell. You know, I've never ridden another bike with electronics, and the electronics that are on this bike, I've ridden it at the track, on the street, in the canyons, and from what I gather, they work very well. Of course, you don't have quite the sophistication that you do with the newer Ducatis and Yamahas and Kawasaki's and BMWs with their slide control and all their other super trick features. But these electronics are still, for the average rider, I think very good and very helpful, and will keep you safe on a motorcycle that is absolutely bonkers in terms of performance and power and acceleration. So the bike is getting an all-new Magneti Marelli ECU, and it will have a 6-axis IMU, although my understanding is that even the ones after 2016 have an IMU. But perhaps it will be new and come with some new features and functionalities, like the ability to have slide control, which, again, not something I really think I'd be using much, but I mean, who knows? I've taken this bike to the track. It'd be really cool to be able to square off a corner on exit with the throttle. I mean, that would excite me. Again, it would just be cool to see Aprilia stick with the big dogs and stay competitive with the technology that other superbike and hypernaked manufacturers are throwing at things. So another interesting thought that I had when I read the press information about these bikes was what exactly they're competing with. Because when I first read the release about the new Tuono V4, my mind jumped to, oh, it has to be as good as the Ducati Street Fighter V4 now, right? It's going to compete with that. That's the next closest thing in its category. And when I saw that it had the same engine and power figures, I was kind of, I don't want to say disappointed, but surprised, I guess. I just assumed that Aprilia really holding the crown for the best all-around hypernaked for so long, almost a decade, would probably want to try to take that back. And I'm not going to say that the Street Fighter V4 is better than the Tuono V4. I honestly don't know. I haven't ridden both. On paper, it looks like the Street Fighter V4 is a higher performing bike. Just the fact that it has more horsepower and, well, at least the 2020 Street Fighter V4 has more sophisticated electronics than the 2020 Tuono V4. But I can't really say. But when I looked at the price, that kind of put things back into perspective for me, because my understanding is that the Street Fighter V4 starts at around 20 grand, and if you want the S model, it's going to cost you about 25. So the Tuono V4, the 2021 model, is going to be priced exactly the same as the 2020 model. So you will be able to get all these new functions, features, and looks for no more money, which I also think is really cool and awesome. The base model Tuono V4 will start at about $15,500 if I remember correctly, with the factory model being about $19,000 US dollars, to clarify. When you take that into consideration, it kind of makes sense and makes that gap in power at least digestible. And just to be clear here, I don't think that I need a 217 horsepower hypernaked motorcycle. I don't know what I would do with that. I barely know what to do with this thing. So I think that although it would have been cool to see a more powerful Tuono V4 and see it try to go toe-to-toe on the spec sheet with the Street Fighter V4, I understand why they didn't, and I'm not upset about it. That said, if they did want to come out with like a Tuono V4 factory race trim or something that had the RSV4 new engine with 217 horsepower in it, that would also be pretty cool. So, not upset about it, but would be cool to see. So, a question I've been asking myself since I saw that release: should I think about upgrading? And at this time, I've arrived at a pretty certain conclusion that I shouldn't. The current Tuono V4 is still way more motorcycle than I need and brings me so much joy. And to be honest, I just think it's more beautiful. So as time goes on and the 2021 bikes depreciate a little bit and become more affordable to purchase, perhaps if the looks grew on me like the R1s did, but we'll see. No immediate plans. I'm sticking with these Tuono V4s. I love them, love them, love them. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, I'd appreciate it if you gave the like button a gentle little click. No need to smash or destroy it. That is extremely violent, and I don't want to incite those feelings in the people that watch my videos. Click subscribe if you want to see more Tuono V4 content. I'm also going to the racetrack a lot lately, so got some exciting content going on from that. Got a couple announcements coming up as well related to a motorcycle and another vehicle, actually. So click subscribe if you want to see that stuff and Turn those notifications on with that pretty little bell. Drop a comment below. Let me know what your thoughts are on the 2021 RSV4 and Tuono V4. If you're thinking about putting a deposit down, and let's just talk. I like motorcycles. You probably like motorcycles. I try to have pretty open conversations down in the chat sections below, so let's do it. Let's become friends. If there's any other motorcycling related content, whether it be Tuono V4 or Triumph Daytona 675R, Racetrack Street, whatever it may be, drop them below. I'm open to suggestions. Happy to make any videos that I can. If there's any topics you want to get my take on, I'm open to suggestions there as well. So again, appreciate you watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Later.